never been able to think of it in that way, in the equation of this is what goes into it, and this is what comes out.
Yeah.
People use those words interchangeably all the time.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have them separated like that.
Yeah.
Because if you can impact elements of an equation, you can change the outcome.
Oh, definitely.
So it is a new way of thinking about it, because prejudice just is, right? And it's what you do with it. And so to look at it in terms of the inputs.
Yeah. Because all too long, we've been trying to change this, right? So we've legalized stuff around this. We have enforcement around this stuff. But to be quite honest, this is a byproduct. This is a byproduct of these first two things, right? And so if we can stimulate people to recognize that we have similar circles. I mean, the things that you want in your life are exactly the same kinds of things I want in my life. Now, our approaches to that may in fact be different because of our culture, because of our geographic locations, so forth and so on. But ultimately, I want the same things you want. And, you know, when we all do better, right? Paul Wellstone. Other thoughts about this model? You don't have to have any other thoughts. I just wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about that some more. Yeah. For me, when I was able to discover this, or have the enlightening to kind of look at it in this particular way, it really did give me a hands-on way to really start figuring out how to solve problems, right? And so, you know, when we talk about bigotry, we talk about that emotional state, and that love is the only way to kind of really move somebody along that continuum. It flies in the face of everything that we've been taught about people who either don't agree with us or people who don't think like us, right? Because our rugged individualism in Western society says, if someone doesn't agree with you, cut them off, right? Or if they act inappropriate to where you want to go and your goals, cut them off. But if we look at this, if I want to help someone, particularly someone who's in my family, the worst thing I can do is cut them off. Where do sick people go to get healthy?
Hospital.
They go to a hospital. Why do they go to a hospital?
Because people are there who know how to treat them.
Because people know how to treat them. And typically those people are healthy. All things considered, right? I mean, they're relatively healthy. Typically I don't see sick people going to other sick people saying, you know, you got this cold, how do I get over it? Man, I got the same thing, right? So when we talk about these bigots, the only way bigots get better is to be with better people. The only way to get prejudiced people to think differently is that we have to have people who are able to give them cognitive dissonance, right? Somebody who's able to stand up and say, where did you get those facts? How do you know that to be true, right? And all too often we like to preach and villainize these folks, and then we keep ending up with this, and we keep saying, well, why, you know, after all of these years of doing this stuff, why are we still coming up with this? It's because we haven't dealt with these two, the first two. So, cool. Thank you. And so when we talk about the bigots and the prejudice, and even the people who are acting discriminatory, one of the things we have to remember is that they're all reaching for the same goals. We want the same goals. And we all want a sense of significance, belonging, and safety. That's what we want. Why do people come to this school? So that it can expand their ability to be significant, belonging, and have a sense of financial or cultural safety that a job provides you, right? And so if I have a Somali student who just came from a camp, right, or lives in South Minneapolis, what does that student want? He wants significance, belonging, and safety. If I have a kid from Chicago, what does he want? He wants significance, belonging, and safety. If I have a kid from Greater Minnesota, from Bram, Minnesota, who comes into the school, what does he want? Significance, belonging, and safety. Where we typically have problems isn't what these goals are. We typically have problems because we don't understand how people are trying to get those things, or that the ways that they're trying to get them are inappropriate for our cultural setting or for our environment. And so we have to teach people with this understanding that what they're doing is what they, in some ways, know to do, right? So if you can open up your handout, and I'd like to point out to you the truths about human beings, right? So humans can learn, change, and grow, right? Who I was at 17 is not who I am today. Thank God. Right? So we can learn, change, and grow. We can adapt to our environment. We can use new tools. So we're flexible in that way. People also do what they think works, even when what? It doesn't. Even when it doesn't work, they still do it because they think that it works. Right? All human behavior is goal-directed. Everything that we do is because we're trying to achieve some kind of goal, or we think we're going to get some reward from doing it, right? So people come to class late because they think they're getting some kind of reward from doing that, right? So the thing that they were doing before class was more important than the thing that they were doing to get to class, right? So that's something that we have to also understand, because goal orientation allows us to actually be able to change or help people change their behavior, right? Next, attitude is a reaction to a goal. What have you been taught about what an attitude is? What is an attitude?
Mindset.
It's a mindset. Attitude.
The way you think or feel about something.
The way you think or feel about something is an attitude. Anyone been accused of having an attitude? Right? So my dad was my pastor, and so growing up I was a preacher's kid, right? And so we would on Sunday we would open up the church at 7:30 a.m. and we closed the church at 11:30 p.m. We'd stop at 3 o'clock for chicken, not because we were black, but because chicken is delicious. So all day church on Sunday. So Friday night, I asked my dad for the car. And because my dad loves me, what does he say?
No.
He says, yes, he loves me. Right? So he tosses me the keys. I'm hanging out with my friends. And I put gas in the car. And I come home before curfew. I toss my dad the keys. And he says that I have what kind of an attitude? What kind of attitude?
Great.
A great attitude. A good attitude. Right? What do I say about my dad's attitude?
Good.
That he has a good attitude. So I'm cool, my dad is cool. Friday night. Sunday at noon, my best friend Dexter calls me and says, Andre, can you pick me up for the movies? What do I know about Sundays? Church all day. But I'm 17 and I'm invincible. And Jesus is my friend. Right? So I go up to my dad and I say, Dad, can I borrow the car? And what does my dad say? He says no. And not only does he say no, but he gives me a lecture about how I'm leading people to hell. Right? Every negative consequence in my house, the ultimate consequence was hell. You didn't make your bed, you're going to hell. You didn't wash the dishes, you're going to hell. And my parents were very happy to either show you the way or you could go on your own. Right? So I would say that my dad had what kind of an attitude? Because he did not let me use the car. I would say he had a bad attitude. What would he then say about my attitude?
Bad.
That I also had a bad attitude. But wait a minute, Friday night we were cool. Sunday, now we both have attitudes.
Just on Sunday, you don't have an attitude.
You said just on
On
Sundays,
Sundays.
right? So what's the difference? What happened? What's that?
Disagreed.
We disagreed with what?
Each other.
With each other. Now this, if you want to be effective with students, this is probably the most impactful statement that I can make the whole time that we're spending together, right? Because this will help you figure out every last student that you interact with. This is the golden key or silver bullet, as it would be, to let you into the minds of your students. The reason, okay, so here I'll give you one example closer to home for you. Have you ever been in a situation where you were a teen yourself, and you asked a parent for something, and they denied you that something, right? Your typical response, at least the response that I've often seen, is this one. Right? All that kind of stuff. Sighing, hissing, booing. And then all of a sudden the parent gets this clairvoyant idea that, they just tap into the universe and into your desires. And they say, you know what, I'm thinking about that. No, go ahead and do it. And you're like, oh, thank you. Right? You start purring. And, you want to rub up next to them. And I love you. Right? Now, 2 seconds ago, you hated these people. Now you love them. Why? If you want to understand our students and you want to understand their attitudes, it's important to realize what their goals are. When I accomplish my goal, I have a good attitude. When I'm not able to reach my goal, I have a bad or negative attitude. And so you're sitting in your office, or you're trying to register a student, or you're trying to even get folks to sign up for school, and they have a bad attitude. What is the one thing that you know about them for sure?
Goals.
That what?
They have goals.
That they have goals? But if they have a bad attitude, what do I know?
You're not doing it.
They're not getting their goal. So as a person who is a helper to the student, I now have a twofold responsibility to them. What's the easiest thing for me to do to help them have a good attitude? Ask them what they want. I can ask, can I use the bathroom? Is that getting me to the bathroom? No. So not asking them what they want.
Understanding their goals.
So I can understand. Oh, yes, I understand.
Give them what they want.
You got to have a good attitude. If they got a bad attitude, you got to have a good attitude towards them so they can embrace.
What determines an attitude?
That conflict of, am I going to get what I want?
Is it the conflict? If I get what I want, I have a good attitude. If I don't get what I want, I have a bad attitude. Following that logic, if I have a bad attitude and you want to get me a good attitude, then you need to get me what?
What you want.
What I want. So if you have a student who has a bad attitude, the best way to help them get a good attitude is to help them get their goal, help them reach their goal. Now, what if you have a student whose goal is so obtuse, we don't have the resources for that, they don't have the capacity to actually do it, it is not something that's within the realm of possibilities, right? So a student comes here and says, I want to be an astrophysicist through your program. Is that going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. It's not possible. We don't have the resources for that, right? So then what becomes my responsibility to the student?
Explain why we can.
Okay, you can explain why. And now I'm still saying, but I want to. I want to do it. I can do it. And you're saying, I'm going to explain to you why, blah, 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 blah.
Options.
What about options?
Well, if you don't have it within you, then you let them know what their options are.
So that they can do what with that information?
Change their goal.
They change their goal. Right? So if you have a student who is who has some ideas, some thoughts of things that they can't do themselves, it's easy as bureaucrats for us to say, nope, can't do it, check. And then the bad attitude that they had when they came is the same bad attitude that they left, except that the name for that bad attitude that they have is your last name. Right? And so it's important to encourage people to make their own decisions. And so all we do is provide people information. So if you want to help someone and they have a bad attitude, first, get them what they want. And secondly, help them set new goals. My parents would say that all the time. They'd be like, boy, go to your room till you learn how to act. and I'd be in my room for a while, and then I'd step out and I'd say, "To be or not to be." I spent a lot of time in my room. Right? That's not what they were talking about. What they were